I want to thank you for joining once again, and today we're going to be discussing our science mock test. We're looking at the answers for that mock test. We're now going to be looking at question 1. Which of the following animals has a backbone? Crab, snake, snail, earthworm. And our answer here would be the snake. All of the other animals have some form of protective outer covering, okay? And the backbone is inside. So the crab has what they call an exoskeleton. The snail and earthworm also have their coverings or their protective coverings outside. So our answer for number 1 is B, snake. Number 2, which part of the carrot plant is used for food? Which part of the carrot plant is used for food? A, stem, B, root, C, branch, D, leaf. And our answer here is the root. Number 3, a plant has many different parts. Which part helps it to take in mineral salts? A, stem, B, branch, C, root, or D, leaf. Our answer here is C, the roots. The roots do so by absorbing the mineral salts from the soil. Number 4, a plant is sometimes likened to a factory because A, they both have workers, B, they both have branches, C, they both have different parts for different functions, and D, they are both very huge. Our answer is C. They both have different parts for different functions. So in the plant, we'll have the leaves that manufacture the food. We'll have the flowers that are involved in reproduction. We'll have the roots that have functions such as anchorage and storage and absorption. So our answer here is C. For number 4, our answer is C. Number 5. All human beings have A, wings and breathe through lungs, B, gills and breathe through nostrils, C, hair and breathe in air, D, fur and breathe through mouth. Our answer is C. All human beings have hair and they breathe in air. Number 6. The properties of rocks can best be identified as hardness and size, shape and color, texture and color, hardness and shape. And the best answer here is C, the texture and the color. Those are the properties that best fit the question asked. Number 7. Plants grow best in gravel, peat, sand, or loam. Our answer is D, loam. A student mixed some garden soil with water in a container and left it to settle. Layers were formed as shown in the diagram below. Use it to answer items 8 and 9. We see a diagram here with humus, 2, 3, 4 small stones. What does the numeral 2 represent? Is it sand, water, clay, or humus? And our answer here is B, water. It's important to note that when left to stand, things will settle out. The heavier things will go to the bottom and the lighter things will float above those. So things here are in layers based on their density, based on how heavy they are in the container as shown. So the largest items will be at the bottom and the smallest items and lightest items will be to the top. Question 9. Which numeral represents clay? And that will be 3. So our answer for number 9 is B. Again, it's important to know that the particles of clay are finer than gravel and stone. Therefore, they will be at a higher level in this column of water that has settled. The diagram below shows students playing a game of tug of war. Use it to answer items 10 to 12. 10. Why neither team is winning? They are pulling in the same direction, pulling with unequal force, pulling with equal force, or pulling in opposite directions. Our answer is pulling with equal force. If they are pulling with an equal force and the force is perfectly balanced on both sides, they both will stand still. No movement will occur. Number 11. The teams are using pulling forces in their hands, heads and feet, hands on rope, feet against the ground, or D, hands and legs. Our answer is B, hands on rope. So, what's a pull again? A pull is when we try to move an object towards our body, while a push is where we try to move an object away from our body. Number 12. As both teams place their feet into the ground, they use pushing forces, pulling forces, balancing forces, or twisting forces. Our answer is A. They are using a pushing force to get better grip on the ground. Number 13. Which of these diagrams correctly shows the north and south poles of a magnet? Okay, let's look carefully. We have A, S, N, we have B, N, S, we have C, N, E, and we have D, E, S. Now, E, S would be east and south. That rules out D. C would be north and east. That rules that out. We're not dealing with cardinal points here. We are looking at either A or B. Now, correctly shows the north and south poles of the magnet. As presented in the item, north comes first and south comes after. So we would select B, showing north first and then south. Use the diagram below to answer items 14 and 15. We have here a wheelbarrow with several arrows indicating different points that are important to answering the question. 14. Which numbered part of this diagram represents the fulcrum? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Now our answer is 1, so that would be A. The fulcrum is a point where the turning takes place. So something will pivot on its fulcrum. There will be a turning action there. And it is at that point where the wheel is that turning will take place. Not against the ground, but with the axle running through the wheel. That's where that turning will take place. But teacher, the wheel turn on the ground. Yes, But let us look also at a seesaw. A seesaw has a turning action that takes place on the fulcrum. So in this case, it's not the wheel necessarily, it's the axle. That axle and wheel, that's where the fulcrum is. Number 15. Which of these forces would cause the wheelbarrow to go in the direction of the arrow labeled Z, okay, or labeled Z? Is it going to be a push, a pull, magnetism, or friction? It has to be a push, okay? So a push is when we move an object away from the body. If it were a pull, we would not be applying the force behind the wheelbarrow, but in front. Someone would have to stand in front of the wheelbarrow and pull that for that wheelbarrow to them, which is not the safest way of moving a wheelbarrow full of any type of load. It's not going to be easily controlled like that. Magnetism does not apply to this question, and friction does not apply to the question. The best answer here is A, which is a push. And that's how we normally operate a wheelbarrow, via a push. The diagram below shows a container of water which was left uncovered in the sun for 3 days. Use it to answer item 16. Which word best describe what happened? Transpiration, condensation, evaporation, or convection? Okay, our answer is C, evaporation. Evaporation best describes what has happened. This is where water changes from a liquid state to a gaseous state. Now let's look at some of the other things that are there. Transpiration is the loss of water via leaves. Condensation is when water vapor is cooled and moves from a gaseous state back to a liquid state. And convection describes the movement of heat through liquids or gases. So our answer is C. For number 16, our answer is C. Use the diagram to answer item 17. Here we have a kettle that appears to be on some form of a heat source. We have steam coming off. There's a glass, and then water drips into a beaker below. 17 says, what process is taking place on the piece of glass? We, from the previous question, identified what convection is and condensation. We now need to understand the terms melting and conduction. When something melts, for example, ice melts, it moves from a solid state and changes to something else. Okay, so ice melts and becomes water. Conduction has to do with the movement of heat through solid objects. Our best answer, or only answer here really, is D, condensation. The surface of the glass is cool, and therefore this cool surface will cause the water vapors to change back from their gaseous form to liquid. Use the diagram to answer item 18. Here we have two gears. Okay. In what direction will wheel A turn when wheel B is turned in a clockwise direction? And our answer is A. It will turn in an anti-clockwise direction. Now, a gear is a special wheel with teeth on the ends. And based on the fact that B is going to be turning clockwise, if you were to draw an arrow to show the movement of A, that arrow would have to go in an anti-clockwise direction to be true. Number 19. Which material is the best conductor of heat? Wood, rubber, iron, or plastic? Now, our answer is C. Iron is the best conductor of heat. All the other materials would be considered to be insulators. Okay, so wood, rubber, and plastic will not transfer heat as readily as iron. Number 20. Which of these animals depends on echoes to find its food? Cat, bat, rat, or dog? Our answer is B for bat. The bat uses something they call echolocation. They will bounce sound waves off the surfaces of objects in their environment and will determine, based on the information they receive, if this is something that they can eat.